Hello. So today I'm gonna try doing like a bit of a thought experiment. It came to me when I was meditating the other day after doing my last recording. And I talked a bit about how people are kind of the source of our problems, or at least a lot more than we think. So when I was meditating, I'm just lying there. I was thinking, for some reason, came to me like, what happens if nobody was around anymore? So let's imagine for a moment that I have like all the power in the world. And at the snap of a finger, like Thanos' evil cousin or something, everyone on Earth is just like magically gone into dust. And there's literally no one left in the world except for you. And now everyone's gone. What does that really mean? How does that really feel? And you start from like the big stuff. I guess it's already clear it's kind of like a benefit. There's like instantly the wars that are happening in the world um, are just over. They're gone because there's no one to fight for anymore. There's no countries, no borders. There's no people to operate in the military or any of the weapons. Even though all the weapons are basically designed to kill other people, right? Like they're not even for hunting or whatever it is anymore. So all of that's gone. I think that's already like a huge change. And if you go down, if there's no countries, there's no governments, no politics, none of that lovely, lovely discourse in the politics, um, which means no one can be angry about politics because there's no one to be angry with or about. There's no one to feel angry. And if we keep kind of going down, there's no banks, no money, there's no economy, no GDPs, no capitalism, no communism, socialism, all of the isms. They're all gone. There's no laws. There's none of that structure. All the buildings are empty. It's just buildings now. And we keep going down into sort of like the country and the province and the city and stuff like that. There's, yeah, no cities. There's no, um, yeah, local governments. I guess transport's down now. Yeah, none of the food, none of the deliveries are happening anymore. All the ships in the world just stopped. All the trains, buses, they're all gone. So there's no more stuff to buy. There's no jobs. There's no paychecks, bosses, no companies. There's no landlords. There's no mortgages. Um, yeah, there's nothing to rent. There's no one saying you. There's no ownership. There's no more. You have to stay in your little box or your little space because that's the only place you're allowed to be. Everyone else kind of segmented the land and the buildings and the rooms where you're allowed to go. There's none of that anymore. You can go wherever you like. There's nobody stopping you. And then we kind of like drill down further. This is where it gets like a little bit more personal. But there's no more like communities. There's no schools. There's no teachers. There's no one around to show you things, to care for you. I guess that's sort of like a downer. At the same time, I think the people closest to us are the ones who somehow, after absorbing all of this sort of societal stuff, put the most pressure onto like their kids and their partners and their friends and their families. And all of those expectations are gone. There's no one telling you you have to be a certain way. There's no one punishing you or looking at you weird because you did something or you said something or you thought something, you dressed a certain way, or you were just born a certain way. Um, all of that is just like completely gone. There's no more people to please. There's no holidays, birthdays, gifts, favors, things that we're expected to do for one another. And I'm not saying that they're all bad things. It's good that we care about one another once in a while, but sometimes it feels a lot like you're just kind of supposed to. And I don't know about you, but when I kind of get to that point where I'm just like, okay, all of these things are gone, and it's literally just me, it's a strangely like calming feeling. Like all of a sudden, like a huge number of my problems are gone, like 80, 90% of it. It's so strange to think about in that way, but it's kind of true. I don't know if it's just for me. I think it's for like a lot of people. But now that you're just like on your own, the only thing you have to think about is just sort of like food and water. Um, I guess I'm not going to debate too much about how much we need social care and stuff like that. But yeah, somehow just lifting all of that off. It's already so much weight. Having to survive, even if all of the logistics in the world disappeared, I think I can like figure it out. I'm not like a survivalist or an outdoor person by any means, but if I had to go out, figure it out, I can like read books, I can learn. Maybe the internet's gone, um, but I can scrounge for things and whatever is left, and eventually that'll run out, I guess, and you have to figure out how to get water and things like that. But that's like the only thing I have to think about now. I just have to think about like how do I stay alive. I don't have to worry about if I'm making the right choices, if I'm deciding to be the right kind of person, if all of the, I don't know, the dozens, hundreds of choices we make every day and the ways we try to like please people or avoid dis- disappointing people, disappointing ourselves, making sure you kind of like make your way through the system, it's all gone. And somehow, yeah, it's really comforting. And I start to realize how much of these like things are just imposed onto us. And I think in the back of our heads, we kind of like know, but we don't really talk about it either. We don't want to be the one who's like, I don't think we should be doing these things. Not even in the small sense. Like, I'm not even talking about like all the protests and stuff that are happening and trying to dismantle and revolutionize things. Um, but even in the small like community sense, we put these pressures on one another. Um, Even when we meet up with friends and family and whatnot, and like have relationships, we feel scared to like show up as ourselves. Sort of like that's not enough. That you have to sort of appease other people. You have to hide parts of yourself, or it just like kind of won't work out, or something like that. So I find like without all of those expectations and things that I'm supposed to be doing, it's just so much better. But I think we can bring everyone back and still have that feeling, especially when you go through like exercises like this. So let's pretend they're all back. And yeah, now everyone's back and all your problems are back. You have to think about all the things that happen in your life again because we're like kind of steeped in this thing. can't really get out of this matrix that we're jacked into. And unfortunately, there is no like magic, you know, just red pill, blue pill, or whatever to just leave it. I do think you have to like understand why we feel this way and why those things are placed onto us and why we care about them. And I do think over time we can shed them one by one. So even though everyone's back, the sense of calm that I felt knowing that maybe for a moment I didn't have to meet any of those expectations is totally fine. Like I think I still have to survive and I still have to pay for things and rent this place and whatnot and buy food. But I can live in a way where I kind of like decide which rules I want to follow and which ones aren't worth the time. I'm still kind of working on that part, but um, I do feel like the world is complicated. There's a lot of different ideas floating around, and I think a society is kind of like weather, you know, like climate, like the temperature and the pressure and the air and the water, the oceans are constantly swirling and changing things. And there's different parts of the world, like there are deserts and icy places and lush rainforests and whatnot. And same thing in society. There's like different cultures, there's different groups and ways of living and behaving, different opinions. Especially on the internet, a lot of these things like all bump and clash into one another. So there's never like a standstill. You can't just like make the culture or society like a single way. Just like you can't just like make the climate like a single way. Otherwise, I guess if you think of the ice age or something where everyone died, everything died. Um, but in general, you can't really do that. Now, do you think that we can start questioning and thinking about, like truly thinking about the values that we care about and how much of the society and the pressures that we kind of put onto ourselves and onto each other really serve like those values? And I think it's hard because most of us don't want to stand out, even within your local community. You don't want to be like the nail that stands out and gets struck down. So unless like a whole bunch of people get the same idea, you feel threatened. You feel like you don't want to be the odd one out. You don't want to be like the weirdo, the crazy one, or whatever. But it's like those pressures kind of like don't make too much sense. So I think you have to like start shedding those layers. And in terms of like the bigger picture in the long run, of like, okay, so all of these things constantly collide into each other and not really serving us, and we don't know what else to do. I guess right now in the world, everyone's just angry, so everyone's just fighting each other. I don't think fighting is necessarily the way forward. I've learned that within myself, which is sort of what brought me to this idea in the first place, is that I don't need to fight the way things have been, the way I grew up, and the I don't know, the weird family obligations and pressures and all the traumatic past and stuff that's been weighing on me. It made me want to fight back. It made me angry. It made me sad. But that pain was the driver. And I realized that I don't have to fight. I just have to realize that that's how I'm feeling and realize the things that make me feel that way and decide, like consciously decide if I still want to engage with them in that way. Because when we engage with people differently, things shift. Um, yeah, in the psychology therapy sessions and stuff, there's certain techniques where you're supposed to like say how you really feel and what you're hoping for from other people. and coming up with like a specific action maybe they could do to help you or help the dynamic, you know? But you can't expect people to agree to it or adapt or like adopt those changes just because. But if you like truly voiced how you felt, I think that that's the key. Um, so many times we just like say workplaces or family or religion or whatnot, like we don't want to question. We don't want to say how we really feel because we're afraid we're going to get struck down. I think you're allowed to say how you feel and not necessarily expect any changes, but just by speaking it out loud, it does create a change. It it alters the dynamic and it releases some of that tension as well. So when I was writing a letter to my family, that's sort of my way of doing so, of speaking um, and holding that space, creating that space of being like, wait, why are things the way they are? Does it have to be that way? And I can hold my ground and say that I don't want it that way, but you don't have to be angry that they don't necessarily agree or respond. But it does create a shift. So I guess if I was gonna use my magical powers at this point and be like, okay, what can I do to change things? Or in the big scale, like what would happen if all of these people who are angry and fighting with each other, and like the left and the right and whatever, up and down, whatever way you want to like split people up, if they just like met up and were able to openly discuss how they felt instead of holding on to these grudges and just being like, no, um, bad. You talk about why it feels bad. And I think at the core, we all understand those feelings. We just learn to block them all out so that we don't have to deal with them. And then we get stuck in again in our heads and all of the big ideas and the reasoning that we like to put on things, like we logicify kind of or rationalize why we feel that way, and we usually point outside to other people, but truly we just don't like how we feel inside. So if we just like express it, I think that could change a lot. At least that's where I'm currently at, but I think I'll develop further. I think I'll still like sort of sit and simmer in this a little bit more and see how it goes. Yeah, I thought it was a neat experiment, and yeah, try it for yourself. When I do think of like everybody just going away for a moment, um, yeah, I kind of get this sense of calm and the sense that like things are okay and that I'm okay. Just the world is crazy. Anyway, till next time.